All right, welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Glad to be back.
Today, we're going to be looking at, an excerpt from thickshades.com, The Folly of Denying God.
Ooh.
And it's an interesting one because it kind of tackles, a pretty big topic, and that's what does it really mean to live as if God doesn't exist?
It's a good question, and it's one that's very relevant, I think, to people today.
Yeah, absolutely. And this source is, it's pulling a lot from Psalm 14, that whole image of the
Okay.
fool. The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. But but then it really kind of like challenges us to take that a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah.
Like what makes someone a fool in this context? Is it just like an intellectual thing?
Right, and I think the psalm and the source as well kind of dismantle that idea pretty quickly.
Okay.
The fool here is not just somebody who lacks intellectual capacity or something like that. It's really about rejecting a truth that's staring you in the face. Like
Right.
the evidence of God is all around us, right?
Yeah, that's what makes me wonder, what would drive someone to reject something so foundational?
Right.
Is it purely intellectual?
Yeah.
Or could it be something deeper, like a fear of surrendering control,
Mm-hmm.
or even like pride, wanting to believe that we are the masters of our own destiny?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something really important there. And the source makes that connection back to Romans 1.20, where it talks about how God's invisible qualities are clearly seen,
Right.
being understood, through what he has made. So it's not just about intellectual denial, it's about a heart that's suppressing the truth.
Yeah. And that's, I think, where it gets really personal because haven't we all had those moments where we kind of live as if God doesn't exist?
Absolutely.
Maybe not outright denying him, but,
Right.
just making choices based on what we want, what makes us comfortable without even considering what God might want.
Yeah, and I really like how the psalm doesn't shy away from that. That universal kind of struggle. It says, there's none that doeth good. No, not one.
Yeah.
So it's like holding up a mirror to our human nature.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes me think of, Romans 3.23. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we've established that we're all a bit foolish at times,
Sure.
but where is the hope in all of this?
Right.
Because I mean, so far it kind of feels a little bleak.
Yeah. It's easy to get bogged down in that. But I think this is where the psalm and the source we're looking at, they take a turn towards something really beautiful.
Okay.
It's not about condemnation, it's about recognition. Recognizing our need for something beyond ourselves, something greater.
Right. Recognizing that need for grace, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And I really like how the source uses some really powerful imagery here
Oh,
to
yeah.
kind of drive this point home.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it quotes Isaiah 64.6 where it talks about, our righteous deeds being like filthy rags.
Okay.
And to really understand this, we need to think about the cultural context.
Okay.
Back then, your clothing, it symbolized your righteousness, you're standing before God.
Mhm.
So to say that our best efforts are like filthy rags, that's pretty stark.
Yeah. I mean, it's humbling for sure,
Yeah.
but it also makes me think about the freedom that comes with just like acknowledging that need for grace.
Absolutely. There's freedom in recognizing our limitations.
Yeah, yeah. So how does the psalm kind of point us toward that freedom?
Well, remember how the psalmist David cries out for salvation?
Mhm.
The source really beautifully ties that cry to Jesus Christ.
Mm.
Like it's in Christ that we find the fulfillment of that longing. We're delivered from that corruption,
Yeah.
that tendency to live as if God doesn't exist. And we're given a new heart, a heart that desires to love and follow him.
So it's not just about escaping punishment or something like that.
Mm.
It's about a genuine transformation.
It's about a change in how we approach life, how we view the world.
Yeah, that shift in perspective. And
Right.
and that's what the source is really challenging us to apply into our modern lives, right?
Exactly.
Like how do we, even with the best intentions, how do we drift into that folly today?
Right. And what does it look like to really embrace that redeemed life?
Yeah, yeah. And I love how the source uses those really poetic kind of like summaries to capture these ideas,
Oh, yeah.
like building on sand that washes away.
Yes. Trying to do it all ourselves without God as our foundation.
Yeah, yeah. And then that contrast of grace abounding where sin is bound.
Yeah. What a powerful reminder, right? Like, no matter how badly we mess up,
God's grace is bigger.
it is. It's bigger than anything we can do.
Yeah, it's like the psalm,
Yeah.
this whole deep dive is reminding us that recognizing our need for God isn't a one-time thing. It's like an ongoing process.
For sure.
Examining our hearts, our motivations, our choices,
A
right?
journey.
It is. And it's about how we're actually living, not just what we believe.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that actually leads me to a final thought for all of you to chew on this week.
Okay.
The source mentions that Christ coming out of Zion is the fulfillment of the Psalm's hope for salvation.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's true, if our ultimate hope is found in Christ, how does that affect the way we view our actions and our works today? What does a life lived in light of that hope actually look like? So that's something to ponder as you go about your week. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.